Well, I'm absolutely delighted to say that joining me on the Godcast today is Melanie Sykes. Now, Melanie perhaps doesn't need much introduction. She's a famous face from the television and media industry. But recently, Melanie has brought out a new book, Illuminated, which I've got here and read and keep dipping back into. Melanie, it's absolutely brilliant to get you on the Godcast. How are you doing?
I'm really good, darling. I'm really, really good. And I'm glad you like my book.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you've got that beautiful northern accent, but you live in the south. Whereabouts are you based? You based in the city now, or
I'm in North London. I moved here in 1989. And so I've lived down south longer than I've lived up north, but it doesn't change who I am and what I am and that northern spirit that I possess. It just is inbuilt, isn't it, in those very formative years. And I'm proud of that.
when I met you briefly at a publishing event, you said you miss it. What is it? What is the difference? Because I've never lived in the south. What would you say it is?
I've noticed it more recently that there is less hostility in the air up north. And although I do find wonderful people everywhere I walk, the atmosphere is distinctly different up north. Now, again, don't want to be general about up north, but when I saw you, I was in Manchester specifically, and that city is showing people the way on how a city should be and feel because it's joyful and
Mm.
people fall over themselves to help you
Yeah,
and they speak to you on an even keel and they're not fishing for anything. It's just a natural state of wanting to be of service, and that's me all over.
yeah, I agree. I'd because Manchester's my nearest city. It's where we head. But recently, in the last 12 months, I spent quite a bit of time in Liverpool, and I find exactly the same vibe there.
Oh,
You
I've
know,
always found that in Liverpool. I mean,
yeah.
I love Liverpool. I don't go there enough either. And every time I've been, I've had so much fun and there's been so much joy and humour. Humour. What happened to having some humour just in everyday life and just laugh at some of the atrocities and atrocious stuff that's going on? There's no harm in finding the humour in pain.
Yeah.
And you get taken down for laughing in the face of it as if you don't care. But that's part of being human, is having to process it in a way that is palatable and doesn't hurt too much. I mean, I was brought up on Coronation Street at a time where everybody was speaking their minds and speaking their truths, especially women.
Mm.
And the laughter that came from all those dramatic storylines that did actually reflect real life. I don't watch soaps anymore, so I don't really know. So I'm not up on it. But there is something to be said for that natural humour that
Mm.
is born in the north.
Melanie, our pathways are very different. But reading your book, I see quite a lot of similarities. You just talked about those Coronation Street women, and I was brought up on exactly those things as well. You know, the Vera Duckworths and the Bet Lynches of this world, and
And Eni Sharples. I mean, I'm going back because I think I'm older than you, but like Eni Sharples
yeah, and
was
these women are they're still around. I think in certainly in the northern towns of Lancashire, you know, the Burnleys and the Blackburns. Those women are still around, and they are characters. Just talking on sense of humor, Melanie, and we'll talk about some of the adversity that you've been through and the challenges in your life. How important has a sense of humor been to your own kind of story?
Oh, I mean, I seek out joy. I actually describe myself as a joy seeker, and there has always been a derogatory feeling towards joy seekers, but actually, I embody that because I'm looking for fun. I'm looking for light and love
Mm.
and laughter, and I'll do that until I die.
Yeah.
And it's integral to life itself. And I've just been so lucky that I understand it, I'm affected by it, I embody it, I share it, I receive it. It hasn't been something I've had to think about because it's just there
Mm.
for the taking. You've got to be awake enough to feel it and see it, though.
And where does the book fall into that joy? I mean, we're both recently published authors. I mean, it was a joyful experience for me, but it was also quite painful as well. I mean, to relive some of the events and tragedies in my own story. What about you? Have you found that experience joyful?
Oh, I mean, writing for me has always been something that I've been passionate about and done. I mean, I've written poetry, I've written a children's book, I wrote a comedy drama. None of them have ever been published, but I've got them all. So writing is joyful. Writing is an expression of my heart. I also feel very proud of my writing because I feel like it's truthful and honest. It's without sort of, I didn't go to higher education, so it is raw in its delivery, which is a great blessing. But the pain from writing the things was real also, because to get it on paper is to relieve it and release it from one's body. But then you have to process that in itself. And then it's like mining, isn't it? You mine for things, because even the book now, I could write another book about that same life with deeper in information that I've received since writing it. And also I've evolved since I wrote it too, because I wrote it a year ago. So I'm constantly evolving and changing, and I'm constantly processing the pain. And now everybody reading about that pain, I'm actually starting to be so grateful that people are starting to understand who I am, in order to be able to do the work I want to do, because I have been perceived really sometimes, I think, as some kind of empty vessel. And I am full of everything,
I can tell it comes. Melanie, I want to ask about a little bit about the faith aspect, because this is the Godcast after all. You write early in the book about kind of being raised in the Roman Catholic Church and not necessarily enjoying the worship, but really enjoying the community. And one of the first people I interviewed was Eamon Holmes, who is a Roman Catholic, and he said to me, "Once a Roman Catholic, always a Roman Catholic." Do you believe that is so? Do you still have kind of? Well, I suppose the question is, do you think the Roman Catholicism has actually created you and drove you into the person you are now?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that specifically, only because I wasn't brought up 100% a Catholic. I didn't go to Catholic school. I didn't do, I don't even know the terminology for it, but what is it that when you have to remember a load of lines and you get in order to get communion, what is it
Yeah,
you have to do? You
yeah,
have to
your
pass an
confirmation. You
exam.
go through the
Confirmation.
confirmation.
See, exactly. I can't even find the word for it. And for me to remember things, I remember getting the confirmation book and having a look through it and thinking, I'll never remember this. I would never remember it. But I actually like the idea of being able to go and get communion. But I also felt like, why can't I get communion even if I can't remember stuff? I want to still go and get communion. Because when everybody got up to go and receive it, I felt like they were more special than me, and that's not true. But I definitely have faith, and I go to church a lot. I go to all churches because I like the buildings, I like the smell, I like the stained glass windows. I don't know particularly the difference between all the different churches, but what I do know is when I enter them, I feel at home.
And
So yeah.
But that's you are a spiritual person, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, completely and utterly. And what's really beautiful about it is that the older I get, the more I tune into that, the more I become. But I also look back at my youth and realize I've always been that as well. I just didn't realize it. I've always prayed. I've always prayed. And lately I've had a bit of and people were attacking me as early as last week. And whilst I was curled up in a ball crying about the pain that these people were inflicting, I had great wisdom from it. And I realized something else, is that I hadn't been practicing gratitude as often as I should. And when I do that, and when I'm grateful for my ancestors and the people that came before me and what they showed me and who I am, I'm able to get off the floor and go about my mission with a full heart again, And just practicing gratitude alone will get you off the floor. And obviously a dog, because I now have a puppy who won't let me sit on the floor because he'll just jump on my head.
I think when you having read your book and I'm very jealous because it seems like you're quite good mates with Chris Evans, who's somebody who I really really
Admire.
enjoy.
Yeah.
But you're clearly a lady of empathy. How do you deal with criticism then? Because generally, I find with people who are naturally quite pastorally sensitive and kind, and that means that we don't receive criticism very well. I know I struggle with it. I'm just being honest. But how about yourself?
Well, I have armored up energetically against that kind of stuff since I became famous, which was 26 years ago, or maybe 25. I can't remember. My maths is terrible. But all I know is that since my diagnosis and stripping of these this armor, that I can't. It hurts me. I mean, I'm getting wounded on a moment to moment basis, but I'm also having great joy moment to moment as well. I'm completely in flow. I'm more present than I've ever been in my life.
Mm.
And I'm happy to go with the flow of the pain as well, if that makes sense, because it means I'm living. I'm living authentically, but oh my God, the pain is real. And people don't understand that there is invisible pain in others, and we've got to be kind to everybody because we have no idea what somebody's going through. And they might look like they're strong, and they might look beautiful, and they might look well turned out, and they might have their head up high, but inside their heart's broken.
Yeah, I get that. I think authenticity is so important, and I'm not sure how old you are, but it's actually my birthday today. I'm 54 today.
Are you?
And
Happy birthday. I'm 53 on the 7th of August, so I'm not far behind you.
And do you know what? I feel the most authentic that I've ever been as well at this stage of my life. I used to have short hair. I never used to have a beard. I have tattoos. I used to hide my tattoos. I always used to kind of carry away. And I think I've come to the point in my life where I'm trying to be as authentic as I am. And actually, I'm probably as happy as I've ever been because of that. And I think it's really important for people to hear that, because a lot of people try and live the life that other people want them to live and to be something different.
Or they have been so coerced early on to thinking that they've got to behave a certain way that they're just living out somebody else's societal creation.
Yeah.
And I did, for sure. I succumbed to it because it happens. But when you get on the other side of it and you look back and you think, oh my gosh, I've always had my natural instinct, and that has popped up regularly for me and steered me so beautifully in the right direction. It's when you ignore it you get into trouble.
Yeah.
That inner voice, that knowledge that we are born with.
Yeah.
But being authentic in a world that is actually pretending is actually quite a dangerous space.
Yeah.
Because people want to write you off as crazy or whatever terms that they use, or attention seeking. I mean, I've been accused of giving myself diagnoses, and it hurts other people that I've done that, but I can identify as whatever I want to without hurting anybody.
I think so. I think so. Again, in my job, I'm quite open. I've never been diagnosed with depression, but I'm fully aware that I tread a very fine line, and I think that actually helps people to hear that I don't have a diagnosis of depression, but I don't need one. It's what I feel.
Yeah, but also if you don't, because it's like people put a label on things like menopause and it's got a million things underneath it. And if you unpick it, you actually haven't got menopause as a whole. You've got a few issues here that you can actually practically take out. And it's the same with depression. It's not just one big slap of you are depressed. Why are you? What is it that triggers it? I've had to do the work on that over the years. Like I say, I've been in therapy since I was 25, and some therapists I wasn't even sharing the real me. And it's only now that I'm sharing the real me with somebody who understands me, because she's a late diagnosed autistic woman. It's like the perfect union once a week where I can explore all the real things and the atrocities that I see and feel and all the, and it's just so healing to talk.
Yeah. Melanie, talking about authenticity, again, this is where I see another parallel in our lives. I want to talk about Boy George because in the book you write about George, and I've read his autobiography, and I have to say his autobiography is probably the best autobiography. No.
How dare you?
You know,
listen, it's Boy George. Is it a new autobiography just brought out? Because I
no,
read his
it was
old
the
one.
first one where he talks about his heroin addiction and his relationship with Marilyn. And
but do you know he's bringing out a new one that is actually is writing the real one? I read it recently. He's writing an autobiography that's actually the real one, because he was telling you as much as he could tell you at that time.
Right.
And I remember reading it. I got him to sign it. He was a DJ at a club that I used to go to, and I went up as a young 20-something with my book to get him to sign it. And I don't even know where it is now. I've moved so many times. I don't know where it is. I lost it, which is just tragic. And I've met George, and he used to scare me, but I love him.
Why?
You know,
why?
Because he's authentic, because he was authentic, because he was being himself. And I say in the book, at a time when he was being vilified for drug taking, all I did as a fan was want to know that he was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't making me want to take heroin, as he was being accused of doing to his fans. But his fans, if they were anything like me, were just concerned for his well-being. You know? And I'm always concerned for his well-being. I'm concerned for everybody's well-being.
But he's an extraordinary talent as well, isn't he? I think.
Well, he is that voice of an angel, but it's like Sinead O'Connor, another one, another human that's just come into this world to share good messaging and to educate. And with not only with a beautiful face, with a beautiful heart and the voice to match. And George is the same, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Victims. I think the song "Victims" is one of the greatest songs. Just
I played that on repeat on my record player in my bedroom and cried and cried and cried. He helped heal me, and I was too young to even realize what that was, but it was a release of pain that he helped me get to. And it's the same with Sinead, with Nothing Compares to You, if it's the only song you know of her, because it opened your heart. Some people don't even know why it opened their hearts, but it did, and it's just an amazing, amazing gift.
Yeah. I was very sad to hear about Sinead dying as we record this morning. Melanie, as a young person, you entered that world of modelling. Did you see the trajectory that you were going to take? Did you see yourself mixing with the rich and famous and ultimately becoming one of them?
Well, I'm not rich.
Maybe not now, but you were. Well, you must have been.
Well, I have had money over time, but I've also been a breadwinner, and I've also been very independent in that way. And so it's not been like a double income family or anything like that. So my money's been spent, and I've also given it away, and I've also invested in other people, and it's also been stolen from me. So there's a big old story around financial life. But in terms of fame, my second boyfriend was famous, and I talk about him in the book as well, and I explain about fame. I saw fame up close and personal, and it weren't pretty, and I was only 19, so I certainly didn't think about getting to be famous, and I didn't strive for fame. You've brought it up, and it's made me think. I must have been very moment to moment, because I used to say, why does everybody have like a 5-year plan? Or, because what is it you want to do? I never knew. I was happy with doing what I was doing today. And I kind of am like that, apart from now I have got some missions I'd like to accomplish based on the information I've gained in the past 52 years. And I'm healthy enough to be able to explore them now. Everything else has just been a stepping stone to now.
Yeah. And people who've not read your book, who've not seen you on the telly for a while, might be surprised to learn that you didn't enjoy towards the latter end of your television working life. You were quite unhappy, weren't you?
Yeah, but I enjoyed it for most of it, and it's obvious when I'm happy, and the rest is hidden. But I retired from television well, I started to retire about 4 years ago. Longer, it's longer now, really, when I think about it. And I don't want to return and never will return, not until people are actually starting to put authentic broadcasting and messaging out that's real and important and loving and caring. Because the mainstream media is poisonous.
Yeah, I agree, and I write about not necessarily the media, but just society, about how we need to be a bit more compassionate and caring, and we've lost that.
Yeah, because nobody's teaching it apart from in church, and people don't go to church as much as it's such an amazing. Sorry to interrupt. I just feel like it doesn't matter if you're religious or not. The space is nurturing. The space is about looking after your neighbour. You know.
You need one of these on, Melanie.
I do. I've thought about it. I'm not even joking. I've actually thought about it, especially after reading your book. And I've not sort of, well, I laugh about everything, but I spoke with a friend the other day how much I would like to be in service in that way. And at one time I wanted to be a therapist, and to be honest, I am a therapist. I help people out every day, and I always have them, because people always come to me with their problems, and I always prescribe what I think they might need in little palatable chunks. But I'm quite firm as well, because I won't take nonsense. If you've come to me for help and you want to listen, you need to do it. Don't want to keep you in the state that you're in. I'm trying to pull you out of it. And sometimes that's very strong how it comes out. So they might not want me with a collar on.
Do you know what, Melanie? An old, well, a guy said to me when he was 50. This is probably 25 years ago. He said, "I'll give you a tip, Alex." He said, "In life, there are very few friends that you'll make. You'll make lots of acquaintances." And I was like, "Oh, I don't believe that." But actually, now I'm in my 50s. I do think there's an element of wisdom about that. I suppose the media and TV world was a bit like that, was it?
So what do you mean?
Well, were there more acquaintances than friends? Were there people who?
No, because I didn't have any friends in the business particularly. I had some key people that I absolutely loved hanging out with when I was working with them, occasionally call them, but I've not. As an autistic person, I've never had loads of friends anyway. And also people are it's not just it's not like walking into a waxworks museum when you're famous, it's not like this condensed famous people party. You're working with loads of people that make that one project come alive, and that is everybody that works on it. So I've met some really amazing creative inspiring younger people coming up in the business that now are in key positions that I've met now, who are doing really amazing things. And but you make friendships in your real life, I think, but you also make them at work, and then I'm always evolving as well, and some people don't evolve. So I sort of found that I've had friends who I've thought they were my guru, and they've given me that one pearl of wisdom that I've picked and run with and run past them. And I know it's not a competition, but that's helped me get to my next stage of thinking. But they'll always just keep that one narrative that they have. I evolve past people at such a quick rate, and I don't want to be ashamed to say it, because it isn't a competition, it's just a fact. I
was going to just ask, I mean, you worked for ITV for a long time, and all that recent stuff with Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield, and rather than making it about those as individuals, what did you make of that kind of whole story? Were you in the background screaming, or were you kind of unsurprised by it all?
Well, I wasn't surprised that one person gets vilified and everybody else protects their asses. I mean, that's scapegoating across the board as far as I'm concerned, and that's all I'll say on it, really.
Yeah.
So I was in pain for Philip in a way, because he just got scapegoated without any real hard and fast facts about anything. And I'm always about people who are innocent until they're proven guilty, and that's not the case anymore.
No. And you say you say how you didn't enjoy it, but what about the fame? Did you enjoy you are still very famous. Do you enjoy being famous?
No, it's horrible. It's an intrusion. It's a total intrusion. I mean, I chart it in the book, the pain that I've had from people recognizing me, the inappropriate behavior of people.
Can you share something, Melanie?
Well, yesterday, shall we say? Yesterday, I went out with a friend who I haven't been out with for ages, and she got me out to have a coffee because I'm quite agoraphobic at the moment. And when the press attack me, I feel like I might get attacked in the street. So it's a real struggle for me to get out. So a friend came to pick me up, took me for a coffee. When I was leaving the cafe, some guy said something to me at the top of his voice, so inappropriate, so loud, so not anything, that it was just bizarre. And I dealt with it in a way that I've always had to. It's like, have a nice day, thanks very much, and walked on. And my friend she was apoplectic with rage that how rude it was that and what he'd said. And that's how I feel every time it happens, but can't demonstrate it.
What did he say?
It was about my mental health. And he talked about it at the top of his voice in a way that was so... I didn't even know. I don't even want to repeat, because then he'll identify that it was him, and believe me, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And inappropriateness that is so painful. And I'm walking away because I have learned to walk away. But it was interesting to see but what I'm loving is that people are starting to witness what it is that I go through on a daily basis. I wouldn't be famous. I talk about the loss of my anonymity is the greatest loss of my life. And people don't believe me, because to them, fame is like something. But I've been there and it's nothing.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't do it to get famous. I went into TV because it was a job offer that was a good change for me to do at the age of 27. 26 or 27 was to change, because in those days, that age was the kind of age you needed to think about wrapping up your modelling career, because you were getting too old. So,
do you know, when I was a kid, Melanie, I really wanted to be famous. I was all like, yeah, I really did. And I was, and in the book, I entered the world of stand-up comedy on that hope that I might be famous. And little did I know that any notoriety I would come through the kind of the social work that I do. But I do get what you're saying a little bit. I'm certainly not famous, but probably quite well known in my own town.
Yeah.
Enough I go and shop elsewhere because I just like a bit of peace and quiet. So I do kind of get it, but I suppose people might say, well, how can you say that when it's bringing in your money and it's giving you the lifestyle that you're accustomed to? But I've spoke to.
But it's their perception of it. It's not the reality is the point.
Yeah.
Everything everybody says to you is based on their limited beliefs. It's not or unlimited beliefs. They go crazy with the beliefs and then believe that. I mean, it's not me. And also, just to go back to the fact of wearing a collar, you might feel like you've got a bit of notoriety where you are, but because you wear the collar, you are actually of service to a community. So you can't, in a way, pick and choose.
No.
Whereas I can.
Yeah.
I can. And I never used to say anything to anybody, but now I do talk about, just like I'm, and even the media, when I'm because I'm not in a relationship, I'm seen as some kind of fucking, excuse my French, curiosity. I'm a curiosity. Because I'm really speaking my truth. I'm embracing my neurodivergency in a way that is just magical for me, and I feel like it's going to help a lot of people. And I'm single whilst doing it, and that's like, what? It's just so outside. It's weird. It's so strange though, because I'm just living my life and trying to raise a couple of boys and survive this whilst helping people.
Yeah. And we haven't even touched on that neurodiversity and people, again, who are a bit out of touch, not been checking the bookshelves and booksellers that, that you were diagnosed with autism. How long ago was that, Melanie?
I think it's coming up to 2 years ago, and my main messages from what I understand of me and what I understand of my study is that you don't have autism, you are autistic. Your brain is wired a different way. It is not a disease and it is not a disorder. There are loads of pre-existing conditions that go with autism that make manifest in look like disabilities and feel like disabilities. But autism itself is just a way in which you think. A lot of autistic people are highly empathetic, really care about the truth, and aren't afraid to say it. But when they're stopped from saying it, that's when the pain kicks in. And that denial of spirit, that denial of voice is really hard to take. So people talk about, oh, well, they don't, autistic people, they've no filter. And I keep saying, why are we filtering what we think and feel? Why is that good? That's the neurotypical world that do that, who hide what they think and feel. And look where it's got them. We're just now in a capitalist society. It's all about money. It's not about heart and soul and survival and looking after your fellow man. And that comes from blanket numbing people. It does.
How important was that diagnosis for you, and how good was it?
Oh my gosh. It was heaven sent. Heaven sent. It was a hallelujah. Really, truly. And even discussing that I was autistic it relieved me of all my pain before I even got the diagnosis. That's why if you identify, it's because you are. If something tells you, somebody gives you a bit of information, you think, God, that resonates with me, that's me, then you are that. Because that is you. And so yes, it saved my life in a way.
So where does that bring you now, Melanie? Tell us about life outside of television. Are you content? Are things good?
Yeah, because I'm not in atrocious or awful painful situations. So yeah, I got myself out of it. I got myself out of it. Life is good. But now I'm in a different zone where I'm an independent speaker. Have no alignment with any mainstream. I can say and do as I please, and the message is only love. And in that, I'm getting destroyed by people, but I realise I was meant to do this, so I have to keep getting up and keep moving forward with my message until I die. And it'll either be at the hands of them or not, but I will be fighting the good fight until I die.
Are you a forgiving person, Melanie?
Yeah, I forgive everyone. You know what I learned to do when I meditate as well, and I learned this through meditation, is sometimes they'll say, think about a neighbor and just send all the love to a neighbor, and then it'll say send love to somebody that hurt you. And when I very first heard that, I was in my meditation going, I'm not bloody doing that. And then I suddenly thought the person that really hurt me the most, and I sent love to him, and I send love to everybody. Always. Yeah. It's a fallback position for me now.
Do you know, Melanie, why I'm asking you that is that we have lots of people who are quite hurt who come to our church, and some of them find it really difficult to forgive because of the damage and the hurt that's gone on to them.
Yeah.
And I always say to them, forgiveness is a wonderful thing to be able to do. It's not easy.
No.
But just, can you encourage people, maybe offer some wisdom?
Right. No, God, wisdom, that just flags it up as I've got to say something really bloody wise. So don't put that pressure on me. But one of the things I will say, I've always been, I've got a really bad memory as well. So I forget the pain that I've experienced, which helps with the forgiveness. But ultimately, holding pain hurts you. And I realize when anything has ever come into my life that has really, really wanted to take me down, I have to dig deep and find out why I allowed it, why I didn't love myself enough to stand up for myself, and work on that. Use all your energy on working on that, because that person is not you. They have their own, and it's man, women, it's everyone that hurts you. And some people it's hard to deal with when it's family members, because we all know families are complicated too, and that blood that binds. And then there's relationships we have with lovers or friends or whatever, but ultimately you are only responsible for what you allow to happen. But not to feel guilty about that. I'm not victim blaming. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you've got to heal yourself by loving yourself and evolving and changing into something that you truly are.
It's really good. It's really good advice, Melanie. I've loved every minute of chatting to you. You're so grounded. You've got a real heart of gold. You strike me as a really lovely lady. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thanks. I've enjoyed talking to you.
I just want to ask you about one of my heroes who you work with a lot, and that is Des O'Connor.
Oh yeah.
You talk about growing up on Boy George. My dad used to buy Des's vinyls, so we were fans of his music. You know,
really.
We still have them, and I've got an old Technics record deck behind me. And just tell us about Des.
I've been looking for some Des O'Connor vinyl, by the way.
Oh, well, I've got it.
Oh, wow. And you know what?
I'm not trading it.
Oh, well, okay, fine. But it's hard to find. It's actually really hard to find. And I've started to listen to vinyl a lot. So because of the feeling that comes from needle on vinyl, the feeling is real.
It's the best.
And it's the best. It's the best. So Des's voice for me was not when I was younger, when I knew him, and every time he sang on the show, my heart would just open. And it's interesting when I think about Des, because he was always about good news. He didn't want anything on the show that was negative. We would look for the silliest stories in the newspapers to have fun with. And it was interesting because back in the day, as much as I loved all the fun, I did think, there's some serious stuff going on. We never talk about it. Not that I was even had the capacity to deal with it back then. But he was always looking for the positive, Des. He just wanted to celebrate humour and positivity and the light that can be in life, and that is there if you want to look at it and focus on it. And
do you miss him, Mel?
Yeah, I think about him a lot. I speak to his wife a lot. We're trying to get some of the Des and Mels that are all on VHS. We're trying to get them digitally somewhere so we can use them for whatever we need. And I miss him, and I think of him in the way that I miss Paul O'Grady. And I didn't have as close as it was with Des in some respects, but close in others. And grief is a really interesting thing. And again, people don't even think that I might be grieving anything, because you grieve all sorts during your life, don't you? Not just deaths of people, but actually situations. And that's where we all have to really take care of each other, isn't it?
Well, I think grief is a whole podcast in itself.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's extraordinary. But all I know is that every time I hear Des's voice or see a picture of him when I'm going through my stuff or have a memory of something, it's only good, it's only love, and it's only a big smile on my face. I'm not, he was here for good.
Yeah, that's lovely. Let's finish by plugging the book. Here it is.
Well, go on then.
Melanie Sykes, Autism and All the Things I've Left Unsaid, Illuminated.
Yeah.
It's really lovely. And if you listen to this on the podcast, you can't see this, but it's a really lovely blue colour. And then inside is a lovely bit of artwork. Did you do that artwork, Melanie? Is that
no, that's a friend of mine, Eileen Cooper, and I wanted her on the cover. But actually now I feel like it glows from the cover of the book. I feel like it's almost like a Bible in itself, and you open it and that glows.
Really lovely.
And that is just a woman in moonlight, naked, raw, natural, in moonlight. And that's me, and that's a lot of us. And it's all of us, really. So yeah, I'm so happy you enjoyed it. And there's an audio book too, which I did the voice for, in case people don't like reading or for whatever reason. There is that too, which is a story in itself. But I know you've got to go, and I'm really grateful. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely chatting to you. If you want to get Melanie's book, it's on all platforms. It's in Waterstones, all the major booksellers. And if you're interested in myself, you'll find my book there as well, Our Daily Bread, From Argos to the Altar, which is published by Harper North as well.
Yeah,
Melanie,
brilliant. But it's a brilliant book, by the way, and I can't wait to see you again. I'll let you know when I'm up north.
Yeah, well, I'll make you a brew.
Yes, please.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Take care.
much.
God bless.
Bye-bye
Bye-bye.
now. Bye-bye.